Rest and recovery continues with pelvic floor rehab. So let's get into it. What is pelvic floor dysfunction? So the Cleveland Clinic says the inability to correctly relax and coordinate your pelvic floor muscles to have a bowel movement is what pelvic floor dysfunction is. But functionally, our pelvic floor muscles do a lot more than just control us having a bowel movement. And as we move forward in this part of the module, we're going to see just how many jobs our pelvic floor muscles have, and knowing all the things that can go wrong with them and all the consequences that can result really highlights how important the function of these muscles are. And when we have a baby, whether you're a C-section mom or you have a vaginal birth, these muscles are weakened. The ligaments around them are kind of loose throughout pregnancy. And especially when a baby exits through the vagina, a lot of the muscles in that region are disturbed. So that's why this matters for us. So what is pelvic floor rehab? Basically, it retrains and helps you re-coordinate the musculature to improve strength and coordination for support of pelvic floor organs without increasing tension and strain. So I came up with that definition, but a lot of the definitions I found online are pretty similar. Basically, just strengthening these muscles alone, like you would like bicep curls, you're strengthening those muscles, but like these muscles, you can't just strengthen them, and they're all coordinated down there together. So if there's extra tension and strain in one muscle, then it's going to impact all of the other ones. And if you just work on strengthening, like some people just say do Kegels, which are like basically squeezing those muscles down there. That's not, unless you know how to do Kegels the right way, you can actually create increased tension and increased strain and more dysfunction instead of helping yourself. So that's why it's important to have someone you're working with that actually knows what they're doing and knows how to train you the right way. So why pelvic floor rehab? So if you do have difficulty with these muscles after birth, in order to return to normal activities, you're going to want to do something about it. So incontinence, constipation, prolapse, and diastasis recti are big reasons to want to fix these issues. And we're going to go into what each of those things are. Who does pelvic floor rehab? So you're going to want to see a specialist. A lot of people go see their OB, and they know about this, but it's not their specialty. So a urogynecologist would be the expert in this as far as a medical doctor is concerned, but also pelvic floor rehab therapists. So a lot of people know about pelvic floor physical therapy, but occupational therapists also do this work, and they're a fantastic resource as well. I myself have not seen a pelvic floor specialist, but what I'm going to do first, before I feel like I maybe actually need to see someone in person, is to try an online program like Restore Your Core, which is the program I bought. The founder is Lauren Ohayon, and she's a yoga and Pilates instructor, but she knows what she's talking about. And I am 14 weeks postpartum at the time of recording this, and I planned to start at 12 weeks, but things have just been very busy. So I plan to start. I will report back later in this course once I start the program. But basically, it is retraining everything back to your breathing. Like the way that we're breathing can place undue stress and pressure on our abdominal and pelvic floor muscles. And, our body is so interconnected. So if we're using any of our muscles the incorrect way or in a way that causes increased strain or tension, it just has a butterfly effect on all of our other muscles and function. So going back to the issues that can result of pelvic floor dysfunction, incontinence is a big one. Incontinence is the leakage of urine or feces. It's basically a loss of control. of these muscles. So it can occur with or without sensation, which means you can leak urine, for example, and you can feel it, or you could go to the bathroom later and realize that your underwear is wet and you're like, well, I didn't even feel that was happening. And typically, if you're not feeling it, that's a little bit worse than if you're feeling it, because usually women can feel it. It happened. They don't necessarily have the control, but they feel when it happens and they run to the bathroom. So it often occurs with more stress or strain on the abdominal and pelvic floor muscles. So that another word for that is stress incontinence. And that's like sneezing, running, jumping, coughing, lifting, or even vomiting. And let me tell you, it's pretty demoralizing when you're vomiting and you realize you're also peeing. So there's a lot of motivation here that incontinence provides to try to fix these issues. After birth, it is common to have a period of incontinence, but after a certain point, it's not normal, even if it's common. Constipation. So constipation is feeling like you have to have a BM, but you can't. It can be painful, or it could just be uncomfortable because you want to empty and it's not coming out. Stool softeners and laxative can help, but they're a Band-Aid. Like, you're not supposed to be taking stool softeners and laxatives long term. Stool softeners soften the stool to make it easier to go, but they don't actually make you have to go. Laxatives make you have to go. But like I said, if you take them for longer periods of time, then sometimes your body starts relying on them and then you can't go without them and it's a mess. So just, if you need them as a Band-Aid, that's fine, but try not to take them long term. Constipation itself can lead to fissures and hemorrhoids. So fissures are basically like a little cut in your anus from the stool being hard, and then as it passes through, it actually rips a little bit of a hole. And that's when you would see like bright red blood on the toilet paper. Hemorrhoids are bulging veins that can be internal or can protrude to the outer part of your anus. And they can be painful, they can be itchy, they can be swollen, and they're just no fun at all. So for constipation, prevention is kind of key, because once you have it, you really have to endure some pain and discomfort before it goes away. So one of the ways to try to prevent constipation is drinking a lot of water, and postpartum, you're supposed to be drinking a lot of water, but like straining these muscles to have to go to the bathroom after you have a baby just makes anything that's trying to recover down there that much more uncomfortable. So that's another reason why I say prevention is key. Okay, now we're going to talk about the scariest part for me. So prolapses of pelvic organs. You can have a prolapse, which basically means that organ is kind of falling down, falling out. It is not properly supported by the musculature in your pelvis, and it wants to come downwards with gravity. So you can have a uterine prolapse where your uterus is kind of sinking down. You can have a bladder prolapse called a cystocele. You can have a vaginal vault prolapse or a rectal prolapse. And all of these things, like I said, are those organs kind of collapsing and not holding themselves up like they're supposed to be. So when you do get assessed for this, it's kind of a red flag if your provider wants to assess for prolapse while you're laying down. So it would involve them sticking their fingers inside either your vagina or your rectum. And really, the only way to truly know if you have one is to assess while you're standing. So if they don't do it while you're standing and they feel like they can feel something when you're laying down, you should still ask them if they could do it while standing. So symptoms of a prolapse. Some women actually don't have symptoms, which I guess is a good thing, but it also means that you're not doing anything to fix it if you don't have any symptoms. So it could lead to further problems down the road. But some symptoms are incontinence, feeling like you can't empty your bladder, but you want to. And that could be because, like, if some organs are prolapsing and they're pushing on each other, it's like you feel like you have to go, something's pushing on your bladder, but you can't. Feeling of heaviness or fullness in your pelvis. A low backache, but of course backaches can be caused by other things. So just because you have a backache doesn't mean you necessarily have a prolapse. Feeling like something wants to fall out of your vagina, like your vagina. So this is what I felt, honestly, after my second baby. I have not felt it yet after my third, knock on wood, but I did too much too soon after my second birth. And that is one of the causes of these symptoms, is trying to do too much too soon. If you think about it, you are recovering after birth. And if you are literally upright too much, or if you are jumping, or if you're starting, HIIT workouts or CrossFit or something too soon, these muscles aren't healed yet. And they're not going to be able to hold up to a bunch of jumping, and they're going to want to come downward with gravity. And I did too much too soon after my second birth. And I felt like a fullness. I felt like something wanted to fall out, and it wasn't close to actually falling out, but that's what it felt like. It is a very disconcerting feeling. Constipation is also a symptom. Painful sex, which could be caused also by incomplete healing, after birth. But all of these things, if you feel any of these things, it feels different. It was unlike any feeling I'd ever had. So if you have these symptoms, it would be worth it to go see someone about it, or maybe try some of the techniques or one of the online programs, or just rest more. It is a sign that you probably need to take it easy, pump the brakes on whatever you are doing. Because prolapse can heal. Like, if you have this, I don't want you to feel like you're always going to have it, or they're never going to go back where they are supposed to be. You can actually heal yourself from this in most cases. So have hope, but we do need to take care of ourselves if that's going to happen. Diastasis recti. Now, this can be pronounced multiple ways, so I could be technically pronouncing it in a way that you haven't heard it before, but this 2 words, what it means is an abdominal muscle separation that persists beyond general healing after birth. So in this picture, my belly don't look like this, but it just highlights what it looks like underneath. Basically, this is a fit person, but you can see that abdominal separation. Those muscles are supposed to be touching, right? And it's normal for them to separate during pregnancy, but if they don't fully come back together right away, that is what results, is this diastasis. And it can be remedied with physical therapy, but the exercise has to be appropriate, right? So, after birth, or in any fitness regime, we always talk about crunches and planks. Those are not exercises you should be doing if you have this muscle separation. But pelvic floor specialists, or people that know what they're talking about, can train the appropriate way so that the muscles can close and you can resume normal function. If you are doing crunches and planks, you would notice, if you're like in a plank, that your belly is kind of coming to like a cone shape, or like the middle of it is protruding out further like a triangle. And before you had the baby, or before you ever got pregnant, that was not the case. So that is a first sign that you might have this abdominal muscle separation. If you lay flat on your back and kind of start to do a crunch, you can put your fingers there and feel the separation. At least I can. So that is not a scientific diagnosis. You need someone who knows what they're feeling for, knows what they're talking about, but I can feel it myself. And once I realized I had it, which was actually a friend of mine who's a physical therapist found it, I stopped doing any kind of exercise that would cause undue pressure or strain on those muscles. I haven't really done anything to remediate it yet, but that is part of the reason why I'm doing that Restore Your Core program, it's an exercise program that trains your muscles in the right way so that you're not putting undue pressure and strain on your abdomen and your pelvic floor. So I know the diastasis, these abdominal muscles, that's not necessarily your pelvic floor, but like I said, everything is all interconnected. So now I hope you learned some things that you didn't know before. And I know right now it is probably very overwhelming to realize that we have been paying no attention to our pelvic floor muscles, and now we have to. And that's what often happens, right? When something goes wrong, we kind of finally realize, oh, wow, I didn't even realize how much the pelvic floor did until I had all these symptoms. But the great news is, if we think about it now, we will thank ourselves for the rest of our lives, and we won't pee ourselves anymore either. As I keep saying, healing properly now will set ourselves up for success later on. There's a lot of statistics out there, but Johns Hopkins is saying that 50% of women over 50 have pelvic floor dysfunction in some way. So even if you're one of the people who doesn't have symptoms now, it's still important to rest. It's still important to heal the right way, because these problems can come for you later. And you don't want to be, 50, 60 years old and you're starting to have these prolapses, but you could have maybe done something about it now. So take a deep breath. Hopefully you're not too overwhelmed by all of this. And next up, we're talking about exercise and sex. I will see you then.